This is the Slots and Sockets podcast, episode number 28. I am one of your hosts, IRD Moose, and my partner in crime,
Turbo Penguin. How's it going, everybody?
Happy Monday, Turbo Penguin, and happy Monday to everybody out there in internet land. We got a couple of interesting topics to cover for you tonight, and to start it off, we've got some interesting rumors that came out about the 8800 XT.
Absolutely. So really interesting. We were talking about, on the CPU side, I think it's very clear that the 9000 series was really kind of focused and really seeing efficiency at the beginning. And really, if you were looking at it from that perspective, was really the king of efficiency. If just from efficiency, the original release of those cards were just outstanding. How efficient they were.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting that efficiency was not something they really talked about, but we're hearing. Look, we've heard rumors in the past on RDNA 4, and the notion was it was going to slot somewhere between the XT, the 7800 XT, and the XTX.
Yep.
But we were going to see some pretty big bumps in ray tracing, which makes sense. I mean, that's one of the big things that they were really focusing on with RDNA 4 is to improve ray tracing and to be kind of in that enthusiast, but not necessarily stupid high end. Like, I would say the majority of gamers, right? And we're starting to see some more information come out, and really interesting. So, like, if we look at, like, again, these are leaks, like, so you gotta take it with a grain of salt, but it goes in line with what we're expecting to see. And if it's true, really interesting, because right now the XTX has 6150 shader cores, and the 7900 XT has 5376. So 5300 and 6100. Now they're saying the leaks are coming out as 4096. Now we're seeing this from multiple different places. So I'm not sure if I have a ton to say that that's wrong. If that number's correct and it slots in there, this is a huge deal, probably from more of an efficiency side of things, because you're going to meet, those speeds with a third of the stream processors. But not only are you doing that, but your huge leap in not only rasterization, but in ray tracing.
Yep.
So, I mean, you're going to use fewer resources in stream processors. You're going to see a modest bump in that. And the thing is that they're talking. I think at the beginning it was, we trade some blows with the 4070 Ti Super, right? Which is basically a 4080.
Yep.
And we're hearing that that's maybe shifted up to the 4080 or the 4080 Super. Now, I don't think we'll see this get into 4090 speeds. This is not going to compete against the 5090.
Nope.
I do not expect this to be competitive against the 5080.
Yeah.
Okay. I would say this is probably going to be in the competitive realm of maybe a 5070. We're not sure where that 5070 slots in. It would probably be smart for the 5070 to maybe be from NVIDIA's pricing perspective, but you never know what NVIDIA is going to do price wise. But if this is the $450, $500, $600 range. Um, this is a little bit of everything. I mean, gamers were always complaining about, ray tracing. This
Mm-hmm.
solves that.
Yep.
It absolutely handily solves it. It's a 16 gig card. It's fast. It's going to give you 4080 performance. 4080 super performance is going to give you ray tracing capabilities, 16 gigs of RAM, and it really only 270 watts.
220, if Sonic's leak is to be believed.
I just look at it and say, guys, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I really think that the smart thing for AMD to do here is to really make a push on the price and value perspective and
Yep.
say you're going to get all of this for $499. I really think price is going to be it. I sort of felt like 7000 series was like that. I thought that, like, I had a 7900 XT, had it, and returned it. I thought it was good, but I didn't feel like the value proposition was amazing. And so I would say, um, I really, really think this time around the value proposition, and I think sales for an 8800 XT or whatever that the bigger Navi, the bigger RDNA 4, um, wherever that's going to be, I really think pricing is going to be if you're going to tell whether these sell, and if when it's all said and done, you look at some of the quotes we've seen from some of those people saying, I really want to get market share. Market share. I mean, look, I can tell you how
Yeah.
to do that. That's super simple. Our 8800 XT,
Price it
399.
aggressively.
Yeah,
That's number
make it
one.
make it so that it's like, you're like, well, yeah, I could get an Nvidia card, but at 399,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not dumb. And I really think that if you've got if they're as confident in that as they are, if the goal is to get market share, you say, yeah, we're making a crap ton of money on Radeon, on you know Zen, Ryzen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we'll take it, but we want market share in trade here. Our goal here is to get a bunch of market share so we can go after developers and that type of stuff. Um, I just think it makes all the sense. Now, whether that'll actually happen from that perspective, I do not know, but that would be my guess. Um,
My hope is that they do, because I mean, if AMD swings for the fences on the pricing right off the bat, they're gonna see these cards flying off the shelves, I expect, because everybody and their brother is gonna be like, wait, I can get 4080 performance for 499 for 550. Yes, please. And and I'll tell you, I mean, as somebody running a 6800 or 6900, I still keep doing that. I've had this card for how many
mhm.
years? For somebody who has a 6900 XT and appreciates the good rasterization performance, I really do feel like I am missing out on a lot of the shiny ray tracing features, because it is starting to become more of a mainstream thing. I mean, we're seeing ray tracing trying to make a push into consoles, but I mean, come on, the PS5 Pro just does not have the horsepower. It's much better. The PS5 Pro on the what was it, the RDNA 3.5 that they're running is, significantly better in the rasterization performance, which, again, is something we're seeing with RDNA 4, but it just doesn't quite have the hardware to pull off actually good, useful ray tracing. Um, and if AMD can knock that out of the park, then that's going to be a huge win for them. Because Nvidia doesn't really care about the mid market. They they're going to keep making their trillions of dollars off of the high end and the server market, really. That's where their bread and butter is. They stopped being a GPU company, I would say about 10 years ago, and they became a software and commercial hardware company. Um, and the GPUs that we get are kind of secondary, but you know,
I think, I really think when it all comes down to it, um, I sort of think that um, AMD, like, we've got the 9800X 3D, the gaming king, and all intents and purposes, so true. Reviews, everyone. I don't think there's anyone out there who is sitting there saying it's not everything that we wanted, plus maybe even a little bit more.
hmm
Um, it is excellent. Um, if AMD can come out and go to Swing and say, "Look, Radeon is here. We're here, and we're going to make this so that you know we're putting our money where our mouth is. Price it aggressively." And I think that that's a smart move for them.
yeah,
Now, the real question is does it align, and do they have the ability of doing that? Um, they can get super aggressive here and say, "Look, we're going to do everything we can, but we're going to break even.
yep,
But we want you guys to give us a chance, and we're going to have this." Now, if this is solid, then you're going to get gamers who are like, "Heck yeah, let's do it." I look. I'll say this: I see a lot of people sitting back and saying, and saying, this is the pricing on Nvidia is out of hand."
yep.
And I
It's out of
think that more or
control. Yeah,
less, I think gamers in general are just like, it's revolt time. It's like, and if pricing out of Nvidia's side, if the 5090 is really as expensive as they're talking, 1900, 2000 plus dollars for a
yep.
5090.
And the
Um,
5080 is going to
th-
be somewhere in the
that's
$1,000 range. That's
you, you know you
yeah,
that's it. Like, gamers, like, guys, you got to realize, like, well, you have people who say, well, it's only for prosumers. Guys, what has the 4080 done? The 80 series has gone up with it.
yep,
So I can make the argument all day long. The 60 series used to be like a 299, $350, $100 card. How on earth is a 60 series now a $600 card?
yep.
And that's
It was a
where
mid
I
range.
think
Yeah,
I think that, well, okay, but it used to, if you go back way back,
hmm
GeForce 256, which was the top of the line, was 199. Now, granted, I'm not comparing these because they're not
right.
comparable. Um, but guys, when gamers go out there and buy, these 5090s and 5080s and these super high priced cards, like, all you're doing is giving the Nvidia the reason to say, well, why are you selling it? Because people will buy it at that price.
Yeah. It's
So,
literally market pressure. It's like Nvidia is charging what the market will bear, and the market has proven that, oh yeah, we'll buy a $2,000 graphics card. Um, but that's the thing is like I used to be that guy. I used to be the guy that was like, I'm gonna get the top end card. Um, I never got the Titan, but I always got the 80 class card, and I can honestly say I never really regretted it. But the last time I bought an NVIDIA 80 class card was the GTX 780. And that was a solid card. It lasted me until the thing blew up on Christmas week. And
mhm,
EVGA had people in the office who
no.
overnighted me a replacement card, and they upgraded me to a 970, which, gave me an extra couple gigs of VRAM and some other nice things. And I kept using, mom's actually using that card now because, I mean, she just needs a display. She's not doing any gaming, but
Mhm.
it's interesting what they've done because I remember there were some people screaming when the 780 launched and they said, "Yep, it's 799." And people are like, this is ridiculous. This is too expensive. And, I mean, people like me went out and bought it because it's like, yeah, that's the top consumer card that you can get, because literally the next card up is $1,500. It was the Titan. It was pretty much double the price for maybe another 5% of performance. And, you know, NVIDIA has kind of changed that to where the Titan class card, the 90 series, for the last several generations has been a gaming card. They've been selling it as a gaming card because there is a significant improvement in performance that some people see as justifying the see as justifying the price there. But that leaves a huge hole in the mid market, because like you said, the 60 cards are $499, $599 now, where they used to be a $200, $300 card. They pretty much doubled in price.
Yeah,
But
right.
relative value to the rest of the product stack has not gone along with the price. And so, you know, gamers are hurting. Now, I don't know that AMD is necessarily going to price the card super aggressively off the bat. I think probably what they're going to end up doing is being like, okay, well, it's kind of in between a 4080 and 4080 Super. Let's see if it sells at $799. And then in a few months, they'll probably see it not selling quite as well as they wanted to and drop $100 off of it or more. And I think if they go off the hop at $499 or $550, they're going to sell them like hotcakes. But I think if they go where I think they're probably going to end up going, which is kind of what they did with the 9000 series, is, swing for the high price and then just start knocking it down because you're not moving stock. I don't think it's going to sell nearly as well as it could. And that's the other thing, is AMD needs that goodwill in the market. They need to be the guy that says, "Hey, gamers, here's a card. It beats a 4080 and it comes close to a 4080 Super, and it's $550. Good guy AMD would strike again. But you add another 150 to that, it's not going to happen."
I I hope so. Um, I just, I don't know. I really think pricing is going to be super important for them, and however may you present it, that's going to be the really pushing piece there.
Yeah.
So, um, hopefully somebody at Radeon is helping them to understand this. I I, I don't know. Part of me wants to think that they get it, but I also look at, I still think, I mean, realistically speaking, and this is like we talked about this with Black Friday deals, there
Mhm.
aren't good deals, and AMD is going to have a real problem, and one of two things is going to happen. They're either going to be forced to compete with themselves on old last gen, or they're going to really just have to just blow those things out at a really low price. But those 7000 series cards, they're not particularly good mining cards. They're not particularly good ray tracing cards.
Nope.
Um, AI is okay if you need a ton of space because they got 24 gigs and 20 gigs.
Yeah.
But I was hoping that we would see some really strong sales and discounts on the 7000 series, and we just don't see it.
Nope.
Um, so I don't know.
I mean, yeah, after seeing what happened with this Black Friday and this Cyber Monday, where Amazon's like, "Hey, this is the great deal on a card," and I look at it and it's like $10 below MSRP. Like, are you
Yeah.
kidding?
Mhm.
I don't see signs that AMD wants to move product, and that's the problem. I mean, they've got good product. The GPUs are not terrible, at least not from a
No.
performance standpoint. Now, if you watch any of the repair channels floating around YouTube, you'll see that some of the GPUs tend to have issues with solder balls and stuff like that. That's, for this discussion, that's neither here nor there. We're just looking at it from a pure performance and price to performance perspective. And it, AMD has always worked to be the value king. That's why everybody loved their CPUs in the 2000s. I mean, let's look at the Athlon, the Barton core Athlons, the 64X2s and all that, where they had dual core processors running at 1.8 gig that were cooler than the Intel parts, outperformed the Intel parts, and were 50 to 75% the cost of the comparable Intel part. I mean, why not do that again to build
Mhm.
that goodwill back up? Um, you know, and I don't know if they will. I certainly hope they do, but as it seems to be becoming a theme in our podcast, I'm hoping for the best and preparing for the worst.
Yeah,
So,
I think there's probably some truth to that.
Yep. Well, and in our second story here, let me hit that button. There we go. In our second story here, we've got some stuff going on with NZXT. GamersNexus did a pretty big video of some potential shady dealings that are going on, and I don't want to get super in depth on it. Because I have a bit of a history with NZXT myself, with them blocking me on Twitter and whatnot. Because
Bruce, what did you say?
I held them accountable. I called them out for their fire hazard riser cards that they were not fixing and they were covering up. And several months before they finally fixed it, they blocked me on Twitter because I shared a GamersNexus video that called them out and tweeted it directly at them. They didn't like that. And as far as I'm concerned, they cease to exist. And now for GamersNexus and also JayzTwoCents, they no longer exist as advertisers because of some of the stuff they've pulled recently.
Okay, so from a business perspective, okay, um, what I will say is, um, you know, a lot of what we see out of them is bad. Um, there are fixes to this.
Sure.
Um, I do think the notion is if you're going to charge somebody $10,000 for a device, and especially if it's because they can't pay up front, and it's not a $10,000 machine,
Mm-hmm.
that the simple fix is, allow them to buy it.
Rent
Um,
to own. I think that makes
uh,
sense.
the other half, I think, though, is that people have to realize, like, if you really don't have the money for this, like, I just sort of wonder priority wise if that makes sense. But I think that they need to say up front and say, look, this is what it is. It would be nice if they said, now the other half we have to keep in mind is um, we also have to realize that it's a business
Yeah.
and there is legitimate risk in a business like this.
Sure. Sure.
Um, there absolutely is. And you notice and say, well, why is it expensive? Well, if I'm concerned about, 10% of my desktops walking away, I can't do it for free.
Right.
And it is a unique um, challenge there.
And they're not
So,
doing it. Yeah, they're not doing it at the scale of, say, a Rent-A-Center who could offset the cost of a couch by renting someone else a refrigerator and over the course of the period charging them 2-3 times what the refrigerator's worth. But at the same time, they're also doing some other things that are really concerning. From my recollection of GamersNexus coverage, they were using the exact same model name and number to have different parts layouts in
Yeah,
a
I mean,
system, you know?
look,
Bait and
they were
switch.
not clear.
No. It
Yeah,
was yeah.
absolutely. It is. I'm not trying to defend them, and
No,
nobody
yeah.
should.
No.
And I'm really surprised that NZXT hasn't said something and come out and be like, yeah, we screwed this up.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that, like, well, we're investigating. No, you probably should have just looked and be like, yeah, that's all bad. And we're committed to fixing this and say we're looking into this. And at this time we're not doing any new subscriptions and we're gonna make it right. Like I wish that they would have just come out because that would have been the smart thing. But I think corporate America is very money focused, and look, NZXT is definitely in that same boat.
Yeah. And
Um,
as we record this, the only tweet that or message, I guess, since it's X now, the only
yeah,
thing
yeah,
on
mhm.
their X account is to the NZXT community. We've heard your concerns. We are aware of the recent claims made against us and are actively reviewing the situation. Rest assured, we're committed to addressing this thoroughly and we'll share an official statement soon. Now that's been community noted
Of
because
course.
you know, they're they're
Hmm.
they're playing the corporate cover-up game, which I can't really blame them for wanting to do because they've got shareholders and whatnot to appease. But uh, it it's the kind of response you would expect from someone who got caught with their pants down. It's the same kind of response that Intel came out with once, GamersNexus and other media outlets started blowing the lid off of the issues with the 13th and 14th gen. Like, oh, we're looking into it. And then they take action like 3-4 months later. Like, no, guys, you know this isn't the way you're supposed to handle it. And, you know, I just why? And the other thing, one of the other things that really bothered me from the coverage was the rental of the PC is a perpetual thing. You can never own it. Number 2, NZXT by contract owns every bit of intellectual property you put onto that machine. So, unless you ship them a machine without the SSD in it, your data is theirs by contract. Like every step of the way on this whole thing is just, it reeks of scam. And
Mm.
then the fact that they advertise a system with a 4090 and then they ship it with a 4080 at a specific price, and then while you're still subscribed to it, they increase how much they're charging you. That's
Uh,
one of the things they
Look,
did to Gamers Nexus.
look, look. It's look. There's no defense.
Yeah.
Okay, they screwed up. I don't know what more you want them to say, Moose. I mean, the thing is they're not safe. So,
Yeah.
first, nobody should be using this program to begin with. Let's make that super clear.
No.
2, it makes it super easy. I mean, don't buy NZXT stuff.
Yep.
3, that's easy because I don't own anything NZXT. The last thing I did own, it caught on fire because I had the H1. It didn't catch on fire, but I mean,
It
I just
almost
think
did.
that
Yeah.
I think it's really simple. I mean,
Yeah.
people need to realize that you have choices,
Yep.
and the simple thing is just don't buy that product.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, they have come up with some really unique products
Sure.
because for instance, like I really kind of did like the their triple fan little thing, and
The
I didn't
Kraken.
buy it 'cause it's 70. No, the triple fan. It's a 360 fan all in one.
Yeah. 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 That I think that's the Kraken.
Whatever,
Yeah.
whatever it's called. I thought it was a good idea. Didn't buy it. It doesn't help them at all.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, there are ways, and look, the internet has come up with lots of different ways that you can address these problems.
Mm-hmm.
It is solvable. NZXT isn't out of the woods. I think any good PR firm could figure that out, and I think any good gamer could be like, "Well, yeah, stop doing dumb things."
Mm-hmm.
Probably makes a ton of sense for them, but that's going to require them to stop doing dumb things. And I question their ability to not do dumb things, especially when they're sitting there saying, well, we can make money. Because I think I can guarantee you all of this comes from making money.
Oh,
And
yeah.
some lawyer was like, yeah, we can make money.
Yep. Oh, and
So
if some YouTuber buys our rental PC, we can steal their content and sell it as our own. Like,
all
great.
I have to say though is that I still think um some of this goes to the influencers on YouTube
Oh, yeah.
that were like actively advertising this. And guys, um, I just I think that some of these things that were said from that, I think it's very clear that these guys were like, like, and it's amazing. I've seen some of these shorts
Mm-hmm.
um from some of those creators,
Yep.
and I'm like, wait a second, I don't watch you, but I've seen some of these shorts. I'm like, dude, like, were you just taking cues off of what the marketing part, like, were you not doing a, but I really think the other half is that I think, this is where you have to realize that YouTube, in some respects, if you're doing some form of advertising,
Yeah.
if you're not vetting out to make sure these people aren't like some scam by night people and you're going to take some money from them so that they can scam other people, you're setting yourselves up to be absolute just as bad as they are.
Yeah.
And
No,
I start to question some of that.
I mean, I'm all for getting the bag because, they're getting paid is important. But there's also a thing called due
It's
diligence that you kind of
it's
need to do.
yeah,
And, of all of the all of the content creators putting stuff out about the program, pretty much all of them were reading the same ad copy.
yep,
And the ad copy was provably full of lies. And I'm really curious to see what happens if the federal government gets involved here, because uh, there's possibility that there were laws broken. Because to say there's no commitment and no contract when the contract that you sign when you sign up for it has a commitment to it, that's blatant. That's blatantly false advertising.
time will tell. We'll have to
But
figure out what
yeah,
happens here because
I mean, it's
look,
yeah,
anyone who has this, stop and return it. Like,
cancel it. Yes,
you know,
get out of it as
test
fast
those.
as you can.
Yeah, but and it will be interesting to see what happens. I think anyone who's in there, I wonder if they're like, okay, yeah, everyone gets to keep their own machine. That would be nice, but I don't think they're going to do that. We'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Well,
those machines don't look overly worth
they
keeping anyway. So,
they're not particularly
anyways,
great. Yeah, I mean they look cool, but you know,
yeah, looks only
looks
half
ain't
bad.
everything. But yeah, I mean to kind of sum it all up, I'm not mad. I'm not mad at NZXT. I'm disappointed. And it sucks to see another brand in the gaming segment pull this, and it kind of has me wondering who's next, who's going to show up and pull this kind of stuff next.
Yeah,
And
right.
I mean, I'm looking at what's happening. I'm not saying anything bad about Corsair, except IQ is a steaming pile of garbage. Um, and they need to fix it so that it doesn't crash constantly. And it doesn't require 5 reboots when you plug in a new keyboard for the first time. But, Corsair is doing very similar programs to what NZXT had. They own Origin, they own Elgato, they own, multiple companies like Fanatec, for example. And they could easily go down this path next. And I hope they don't. I hope no other company does, because I wish companies were building stuff for the gamer again, because it was cool
Mhm.
stuff to build, and it was stuff that, yeah, it's cool to build and we can sell that. And just call that
Yep.
good at the end of the day. Like, you guys could get your bag and we could get some good stuff. But
Yep.
anyway, on that bombshell, I want to thank you all for watching. And remember to like and subscribe. And I forgot what I usually say at the end of the show, so do all the things down in the doobly-doo to remind me how much of a goober I am. And, all those things over there and down there at the bottom. And
exactly.
all the weird places Turbo's pointing to.
It is.
To
hey, and if you made it, and real quick, if you made it to the end, we do appreciate you guys listening and talking to us ramble. Comments, leave comments. We do actively look at those, and always up for feedback. What you guys want to hear from, what's good, what's bad. So, anyways,
thank you
guys.
all for that. Until next time, have fun storming the castle. Good night, everybody.
Later, guys.